In office.
27, December 2017 as the interim, and then permanent director, April 1st. Birthday's April 2nd, April 1st.
Oh my goodness. Sadie's birthday's April
Is she April 2nd? There we go. We should
That's
have.
what I was wondering when I called and told them.
This is just county.
My grandpa's is April 1st.
So Sadie's April 2nd?
April 2nd.
Wow.
You have to understand what I just.
Okay,
gave
we're
you
on,
all I know
guys.
was counties,
Sir,
Counties, yes, sir.
because there's 140 something schools.
school systems, yeah.
New York is a state school. They don't fit into any of them.
We learned that, didn't we?
I hadn't known that, but
I didn't.
it gets
Okay,
on.
They're fully state sponsored. That was
I
through
couldn't
the
find their funding. but
gift
they-
to the Alvin
I think
City
it's
York.
out there, I just hadn't found it.
folks, so. All right. Everybody hear us okay? Brian or Lisa, unmute to make sure that y'all can hear us.
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Can hear you good.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Cofer. Well, I don't know about everybody.
Nothing on the side.
See what view I can do. Is that full screen? What is that, Ms.
You're in
Mullins?
speaker view right
That's
now.
full screen. If you go down, yeah, that's full screen.
And do the arrow
Hit the arrow at the bottom. Oh, where'd it go?
under Peggy's name. It says there's 15 people right there at the bottom.
Yeah, but I thought you could tile on some of them. You can tile them
You
and
can.
you can see them where they're
Up
all
there at the top,
Hover back, yeah.
right there.
view.
No, back where you were.
Back,
You
back.
have to hover
See
right
the little squares?
Yeah, I got it. Now I see it. And
It's
now
pretty yellow.
we're learning.
It's still not all of them.
No, it said you,
Weird.
Kathy, is there anything I can do on that one to?
I'm not showing Zoom on Google, you can change it.
This is Zoom, right?
This is Zoom.
Somehow you get to that where it's like a white thing on the
It's
side.
live.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
and then
on
you
the-
can,
and
and
you
you can
see
do
all
it,
their
but it's
names
not
go
doing it
there,
for some
right?
reason.
go
do
to
it like
that chat. Open that chat thing at the bottom.
Yeah, the chat.
All right.
And it should, you had that open last time over here and it had everybody's name in it.
That is very beneficial if we do that.
I was gonna try to do all tile, for like
think
60, yeah.
that's the same.
Yeah.
It'll be the
We'll
quick
do it
one.
in a second. All right, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Ms. Curtis.
All right, good evening, everybody. Appreciate everybody coming to our, this was said to be number 4, but I've been on, we had 5 snow days. It's not 4 snow days, it's 5 snow days. Didn't have the 12th in my book. Should have checked on my notifications. I would have found it quicker. But this is the 4th, and Saturdays was considered number 5. So this is our original number 4 board workshop. And what we're looking at tonight and what I ask you to look at is our ESSER 1.0 or 2.0, excuse me, 2.0 funds that we're received from or due to receive about any moment. Correct?
Oh, yes, they're loaded in E-Plan. We were just in the process of applying for them. We'll be in the process once we get direction.
So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Mullins. She has a presentation for you in regard to E-Plan. And so the E-Plan part, but it's also in regard to ESSER 2.0. And ESSER 2.0, there's a lot to it, it's federal funding, but we've been given quite a bit of leeway with federal funding. So she's going to show you a PowerPoint there, and the PowerPoint then will get you basically the information that you need to make the decision at the February 8th workshop and the February 11th meeting on how you want to expend those monies that we're getting from the federal government. Okay, I'll turn it over to Ms. Kathy Mullins, our supervisor of pre-K and federal programs. I did get it right.
I do have a PowerPoint. I don't know if it's worth, it's only 4 slides, so I've also got copies for you, so I don't know if it's worth trying to hassle and get the 4 slides to pull up, either or that you want, we can do. But
Thank you.
all the information should be in the pack. I don't know, Mr. Curtis, if you want to try to, or not worry about either or. Save for the desktop, of course, you have it in your email.
Okay, so if I
Whatever.
minimize.
If you don't
here-
want to do it, that's
Oh,
fine.
we
as
can,
well.
I can minimize here if I just have to minimize it all, make sure I didn't screw this up here.
Right, so it's not worth it for 4 slides.
Okay, you sure?
And yes, they've got it. I mean, if everyone's
Okay,
comfortable
all right,
with it, they've got
no
a copy
problem.
of it. Okay, as Mr. Curtis said, it's ESER 2.0. It is housed in E-Plan, so sometimes you hear those kind of interchangeably, so that's how we actually apply for it. So I wanted to kind of begin with a brief overview of ESER 1.0, because I do know, I'm sorry, yes, sir.
No problem.
I do know we have several new members to the board since ESER 1.0 this past summer. So to kind of look over that, I have ESER 1.0 review as the second slide. And those are all the things that were approved that could be purchased. So educational technology, providing summer and supplemental supports, planning for long-term closure, addressing special needs of special population, providing mental health supports, and then other activities necessary to continue operations. Now, also in your packet, if you will slide past the PowerPoint, then I have it broken down a little bit more clearly in the chart that looks like this. And it tells you exactly safe environment. We're funding a part-time nurse. We have trained custodians. We have purchased scan thermometers. We have done cleaning supplies, that sort of thing. Of course, technology. A lot of it was spent towards technology, buying Chromebooks for students. We are down to, I believe, third grade, Mr. Curtis, providing flash drives and that sort of thing. We have expanded internet wireless capabilities at every school campus so that students and families after school hours can pull into the parking lot and download things. Zoom, here's a prime example. We have bought 1 year subscription to Zoom. We have purchased IXL learning programs. I'm sure those of you that have kids in school have heard all about IXL. Of course, we've done online registration through Skyward. We have purchased toner and copy paper for those students that need to have packets sent home if we are distance learning. We have done a part-time psychologist to catch us up to date from the spring when we were all at home learning.
And she is doing an exceptional job. I'd love to keep her. If
Oh, we
can.
would, yes. All right. We've also done technology coaches. Of course, there's a learning curve for all the teachers to transition to online learning when necessary. And then the last page is homebound services. If those things had grown, then we have more funding for that. So, and then the next after that, this kind of tells you when we met as a group for ESER 1.0, it kind of tells you how we went about choosing what we did and the presentation that was made last summer. So that's just kind of background information for 1.0. Now on 2.0, oh
Is
yes,
this the amount that you got
for
for
1.0,
Okay.
correct.
And then this
And
is
it
everything it was spent on.
Correct,
Okay, just
correct.
wanted to
No,
verify.
I want you to. Yeah. Try to make it as clear as possible. All right, so, any other questions?
Mm-mm.
All right, so ESER 2.0, you're able to use the funds for everything we just talked about. Okay, so everything in 1.0, but in 2.0, they have added addressing learning loss, high quality assessments, tracking student attendance, school facilities and improvements, improving air quality, and again, activities necessary to maintain operation and continue services in LEA, the existing employees. All right, questions along those?
So that's what you can add.
Correct.
And all of 1.0 plus any of
Anything
the
that would
things in
fall under
2.0.
this?
But now all of 1.0 has been spent.
Or in the process.
Okay,
yes,
that's good.
yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
because you probably had a certain time to spend it, correct?
Correct, we
Okay.
do. And a lot of this was almost, I would almost call it a startup fee.
Sure.
You know, the Chromebooks were startup fees,
Yes.
so that sort of thing. And even our cleaning supplies is very limited at this point.
I think that's everywhere. Can't find them.
Okay. All right, so looking ahead in the last slide. So some things that we, and this is not all inclusive, so I don't want to speak as though it is, but some things that have been brainstormed, and there are more things I'm sure to be brainstormed, but some things that have been brought to my attention that would fall under ESER 2.0 and would be greatly utilized would be, Mr. Kofer has said that it's time to replace teacher desktop computers. Okay, and there's an estimate for that. Additional cleaning supplies to continue on for the next couple of years, because that will be an ongoing need. Salary, and this is just for a part-time, half-time nurse salary and benefits. And then this is something that can be allowed in ESER 2.0 because they realize how time-consuming all of this is. But some funding that we'll use to administer the grant. So, for example, a data and accountability specialist, salary and benefits, and some things to be for, again, administrating the ESER 2.0. This is coming with a required monthly update report to the state, accountability data to bridge middle school and high school. We need to be looking at ACT projections. What is our grad rate? What do we need to do for our ESPO, WIDA, and that is our ELL students, and things along that nature. And of course, I've mentioned kilometers, more sprayers need to be purchased. Okay. Questions?
Our thermometers are about,
They're slowly dying.
they are, I mean, they are these that you just, point and click and they have just not, they've been used all the time. I mean, we've used hundreds and hundreds of times a day.
Do all teachers have desktop computers? Why don't they have laptops instead?
That would be a Mr. Kofer question. However, I would assume it would be actually more economical to have a desktop than the lap. But I, again, and I think.
Well, yeah, well, the only reason I ask is especially with all them having to,
Back
back in March when they all went home, trying to
Right.
pack up a,
And I don't know,
desktop to
again,
take
that
them
would be Mr. Kofer, I'm not sure how long, what's their cycle is.
And I'll have him unmute since he's on.
curious.
We'll talk about that. Mr. Kofer, if you'll unmute, may be a good point to unmute. And can you answer Ms. Duggan's question?
Well, I mean, that's certainly an approach to getting the laptops. There's a problem maintaining those. It's impossible to maintain those like we do our desktop computers that are on our wired network. We have a system configuration manager that can push out new images and updates and keep those systems running like they're supposed to, software wise, that we can't do that with laptops through a mobile device manager. It's just not practical to do disk imaging through wireless devices.
And one of the things too, I would think is some of the programs are more security enabled there with wired units than they are wireless units. With another thing I would look at doing the desktops.
Right, they are. All the wired desktops are behind the firewall, so we have that protection and the filtering as well. Also, a typical teacher is going to have a lot of peripheral devices attached to their desktop computer, like hover cams and projectors or TVs, printers, and it's kind of hard to lug all that stuff back and forth. Now, we are about to deploy Chromebooks to all the teachers, so they will have a mobile device to help out some, but it's just not got the capabilities of a desktop setup in the classroom.
Thank you.
Have you already decided how many you need? You already surveyed yet?
How many desktop computers for the teachers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a budgetary number. I just
I saw 150.
calculated roughly 200 times 750 per workstation to get the 150,000.
200. We don't have that many teachers, do we? How many teachers we got?
That would include, Brian, are you including part of computer labs in that or not?
No, that's not including
About 100
computer labs. It would we would be able to pick up some
Yeah, we have 143 teachers as of right now. So yeah, 100. Yeah, actually, 139. I've got one that depends, but Brian, what are the difference between 200 and say 150? Is that for breakdowns or utilized to move, or what do you What are you looking at there?
That's including the administrative stations as well.
Okay, there's your differences right there with all the administrative stations. And that means you got secretaries, bookkeepers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that are utilized. When you include that, I can see that 200 now.
It's just a basic computer, it's not the monitor, right? That's what you're saying.
Now that would come close to getting a monitor. We would, depending on how much we got or if we got anything, we would determine whether to amp up the specs on the processing power or replace the monitors. We may do a little of both depending on the situation.
Brian, what's about the approximate age of those teacher desktops right now?
I don't have an exact count for you. I did a presentation last spring, but there are quite a few now that's over 5 years old, and they're really having a difficult time processing wise when they're loaded up for virtual classrooms and all the peripherals connected to it, and trying to do PowerPoints and Zoom meetings and hover cams and displaying to the classrooms, and it's a lot to ask for an older computer.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Okay, anything else, anyone on for Mr. Kofer? Before I can turn it back over to Ms. Mullins. Okay, thank you, Mr. Kofer. All right, go ahead, Ms. Mullins.
Well, if they have any questions or discussion points?
How many thermometers do we need? What did we buy in the spring?
Oh, I can, Jennifer Insell, I believe is on here as well, she could
And
probably
Ms.
answer
Bonnie,
that. and
Ms. Bonnie could probably answer that
then
too.
I can.
You need about 50
50.
to replace all of those that we got initially. Even replacing the batteries, it's not working. They were cheap. They just work.
And a
So-
lot of them came from Tima, Roy Sullivan too, when
And-
we did that, the initial ones.
And I did reach out to Roy, and Tina has stopped supplying those. So we will
Yeah.
have to purchase those.
Yeah, that's right.
Do we have a hard number on what that might be?
50,
How much?
About how much? Would be-
$25 a piece. I just bought 2 for a school.
Thank you.
$2 instrument.
How many batteries would you think you'd need, Miss Bonnie, to get you through for a year to replace these? I mean, how are we buying them? Are we just buying the batteries out of the school's fund, or?
Well, batteries were supplied the last time, so I'll just have to do some calculations on that. We supplied the first round, and then the school's batteries actually held up pretty good.
It's a
Thermometers?
device.
They outlasted the thermometers.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can understand. Thank you, Miss Bonnie and Jim.
Uh-huh.
What breaks on them? Is it just a sensor?
I think, yeah, they're just,
The sensor
I
wears
think
off?
they're gonna work real fast too.
a lot of them are made
Uh-huh.
to replace, yes,
Three
yes,
times
yes.
a day or in the morning or.
Kind of like some appliances these days, you know, where you say last,
Sure, we can
last,
track
last.
them back to the computer.
And what did you say the amount of the ESER 2.0 was? 1.6?
1.60109.2.95.
But your cleaning supplies, I mean, that can help you in your regular budget too. If you,
We did this past year.
that's what we did, we basically zeroed out our regular budget on the line item and then used the ESSER 1.0 money to supplement that. So we didn't supplant, we supplemented. So that's the no-no in federal. You you are supplementing, you're not supplanting anything. But we did take that line item down. And then of course, now I'm glad we got this other because we are about out. Jennifer, if you want to mute a sec, cleaning supplies, you've been our point on that. We've been buying some now because we've had to, but we utilize that we got from TEMA and others, and then WMESR 1.0. So Jennifer, you want to unmute and talk about that for a second?
I think some points we need to look at with the ESSER 2.0 are late. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're cutting in and out a little bit, Jennifer. So probably your great location there on Lime Street.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I think one thing we need to look at is maybe purchasing transportation, some sprayers that she can use on her bus, because that's a huge cost for her out of her transportation budget. We're also needing to, we're almost out of the towels that go in the teacher buckets, so I'm starting to repurchase those and the cleaner. And also, I think the high school could utilize a bigger sprayer, maybe a backpack sprayer. And the prices of those are starting to get more reasonable. At the beginning of COVID, they were just way out of, I don't know, they're almost a ripoff. But I do think that could be things that that would be used, you know, to help our teachers. And also the bus drivers are just wiping down. I think Lisa can speak to that with the ready-to-use cleaner and the wipes. It's very time consuming for them. And I think that they need sprayers for her buses that would, and then just the chemicals, but we can get them now. That's not an issue. They're available.
Okay, and were those sprayers included in the your estimation of $50,000 there, like we did before ESSER 1.0?
We just have to have the money to do it.
Okay, so
I'm sorry?
The sprayers were included in that estimate. That's what I'm trying to say.
Not in the
Yes.
1.0, they weren't. I think they're going to be in the 2.0, right, Jen?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, I'm
Lisa,
sorry. My good location here on the creek, I'm not hearing really good, but yes, they were not in 1.0, but I did purchase them for the schools out of 1.0, but transportation was not included in that.
Okay, Lisa, you want to speak about that, about enough
Yeah.
sprayers for buses?
Sure. Right now, we've just been wiping down. That's about all we can do, and spraying Lysol when I can find it, but I can't always find enough of it. So if we're going to have to keep cleaning like this, then we're going to have something a little better than what we got.
Pre-K purchased them for each pre-K classroom to share with the school that they are located in. So there are some. And then as Jennifer said, she had purchased per school as well. So we did it in partnership with pre-K.
And that would expedite, I mean, you've been using the school sprayers, correct, Lisa? But if you had more, that would expedite it where you didn't
No,
have.
sir. We've just been wiping down. We don't have any sprayers of any kind.
All right, so you've not been spraying at any point at all on your buses?
No, sir. We can't. No, sir.
The problem, the sprayers that, can you hear me, Mr. Curtis?
Yeah, go ahead, Jennifer.
That we bought initially are a lot smaller than a backpack sprayer. A backpack sprayer is gonna, one, it's gonna hold more product and it's gonna spray a bigger area, which when we're looking at what we're buying, it needs to be something that's less labor intensive than some of the stuff that we're doing now, because I do believe that will pay off in the end. But the little handheld sprayers are great for a pre-K classroom. Maybe the gym at Short Mountain, Stephanie uses it a lot. Melinda uses it a lot. But a big gym like the high school, Woodbury Grammar, a whole area of a school, it's just not the best option. And if we had some more of those, it would just be less labor intensive for our janitors and our staff.
That way they can cover them quicker. Didn't have to go out and refill and go out and refill, and the backpack sprayers, particularly in our larger gyms. Okay. All right.
What
Here
do
we-
they cost right now?
Jennifer,
tw-
you've looked at that closely, so would you tell Mr.
Yeah.
McMackins?
Hold on to your seat, Mr. Matt Mackins, but they're about $2,000, I would think, right now.
Good Lord.
I found some online that I think we could utilize for the bus that are about $200 a piece, but I mean, they just have to stay with each bus.
This type of sprayer that probably is like if you're, spraying at your house where you pump and you spray, the type of sprayers that work more, efficiently and they're used in hospitals and stores and things like that are an electrostatic sprayer. That means when you spray an area, it's going to stick to everywhere without you actually having to go under the desk and spray. It's just going to spray an area way more efficiently.
Airlines is what she's
Yeah.
It's kind of like a
But-
mister is what it is then, Jennifer.
Yes, it's an electrostatic mister. But obviously you can find, like Lisa said, you can find a full range of products. But, I have learned that you pay.
Get what you pay for. Is that what you're saying?
I actually bought from the same company where they pack sprayer, but they bought from the same stuff we're buying.
What's this stuff?
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. All right.
It's just a thought. It's your decision. Research it and you can see what you think.
Did the state give us any money on that summer school money for clean supply?
Not that I am aware of right now. That's still coming down from the state on summer school. So that might be a point of what we could see if we got any money, any extra coming down during summer school for cleaning as a part of that formula. There's a whole formula that they develop regarding each part of the summer school. Transportation is not going to be enough. We know that.
How many backpacks did they say there?
2 backpacks, I think is correct. Is that right? Did you say, Jennifer, two backpacks? Or you want more than that was the request?
I think if my initial thought before we knew about this, I knew we needed one for the high school. And I just looked at my quote. It was $17.99. That was the quote for the sprayer on that. But that's initially what I was thinking about. You could just start with a smaller amount of those and see if it was worth what we thought. I don't know if I jump out and buy 7. I don't know. That's a lot of money. That's going to suck that $50,000 pretty quick because you haven't even bought the product to put in it at that point.
How many of those did you want?
The good ones. How
Initially-
many of the good ones?
I'm sorry, one more
How
time.
many of the good ones? How many of the good?
How
ones?
many of the backpack sprayers are you?
Do I
ready?
want?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on a lot of things. I would say at least 5. And because I think that Short Mountain, I'll tell you, I think Short Mountain, Eastside, and Auburn could probably deal with the mister that they have in their school right now. And if Stephanie's online, she could speak to how she finds it to be effective in her school. But I don't want to speak for a smaller school, but I would say at least 5.
Yeah, Jennifer, the small sprayer that we have, hear me?
Yes,
Sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Stephanie.
Okay. The small sprayer works just fine for Short Mountain. I mean, it takes a few minutes to cover the gym, but it's not excessive. So I think that it's sufficient for my building.
Lisa, the ones you're wanting for the bus, is that gonna do what we need for the buses? Or are you needing
Well-
something a little bit better?
Well, the $2,000 ones are kind of big and I just don't see them. I know the contracted drivers already have purchased the small $200 ones and they're using those and they're saying they have no issues whatsoever. I just think that would probably be more economical for us to use those, just the $200 ones.
But my question is that a fogger machine or is that a mister that they're using?
It's a mister.
Jack, okay.
How many you need, Lisa?
We need 18.
And the backpacks, yeah, what is it? How many she say?
17.
May have that in my budget. I just need to double check it.
I already have that yours. So she doesn't need the others.
So you may have that in your budget for next year?
Yes, sir. I just need to buy it and get the PO from Mr. Douglas.
Okay. So you may have in the budget for this, in this year's budget, is what you're saying.
I'd like to try to buy a few if I have anything left. Yes.
Okay, all right, there's the kicker. Okay. How many backpacks did she say? Did you, 5? Okay. Of the 17.99 ones? Okay.
So right, 10 grand.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. We'll take 7.
I didn't think you said that.
How much is with the chemicals? Are the chemicals coming out of
The cleaning supply
the
budget?
cleaning supply budget? Have you already factored that in there, or is there gonna be extra for them special backpacks?
Let me talk to the vendor a little bit more about that. But what we're finding with janitors, it's what my opinion is that you should use a ready-to-use product where there's no dilution factor to that, because it's just easier with mistakes and things. When you go to mixing product, it's, that's just a risk you take. But I'm gonna I'm buying the little bottles now, so I think there's a different product you would buy. I'll email y'all a quote for you to look exactly at everything put together on that.
Thank you.
Okay, questions for Ms. Mullins in regard, you've got your nurse's salary and benefits, the data accountability specialist, on what's going to be utilizing there, particularly our data. And let me just talk about that just for a second about data. And Lisa can chime in anytime she wants to. Lisa has 3 hats she wears: data, ESP, and transportation. So clean data is essential.
It equals dollars. Clean data
And
equals
it
dollars.
equals dollars that you're getting. The cleaner your data is, the more dollars that you will receive. Is that a valid
In
statement?
essence, yes.
So what I would very, very seriously consider there is that that individual will pay for themselves in the amount of dollars that they help us to keep our data, because that saves time for principals, saves times for bookkeepers. And when you got somebody that in there that you can say, okay, where is the problem? And you get to the dig down and dig down and dig down and finally find the problem, then it's, Lisa tell you, it's maybe one click of something that wasn't clicked right. Or it was something else that was sent in that we've got to redo. And that's just double the amount of work. So I'm very, very big on that it would aid us in assisting us with not only the ACT appeals, grad rate and ready grad, ESPOs, all of those, EPSOs, I should say, and continuous on the data. I mean, we're constantly getting deals from the state that this is wrong or that's wrong. And then it may be just a slip of somebody putting in something very, very similar, but it's incorrect. And EIS does not acknowledge it. There's 2 systems that we have. We have Skyward. Y'all are all familiar with Skyward, right? Okay. That is uploaded into the EIS at the state, which EIS, Educational Institutional Informational System. There you go. I think that's right, Lisa. EIS Education Information System. at the
Yes.
state.
Yes,
And
sir. That's
so-
right.
There's different platforms that you can do that with. Some people, some schools have Power School, others have got Cambridge, whatever, there's different ones. And then, but we've got the Skyward, we've had them now several years, and it's very good, has a lot of great capabilities. But it is particular, it's very meticulous about these EIS errors that you have to go in and then try to see what the problem is, whether it's scheduling or whether it's a student ID, or it is very, very meticulous. And I think having data person, full-time data person accountability can trace those things down. So that's what I'll say about that.
How did you come up with that number?
So that, okay, I can talk to that. So that number, I probably erred on the higher side rather than the lower side, because of course it depends on who the person is, number of years experience, number of degrees, that sort of thing. And then that's added in there with their benefits. So that includes the retirement, Social Security, Medicare, and I included medical at the highest cost, which is $12,000.
Okay.
Because I would just rather be higher than
Absolutely.
estimate lower. So that is probably a higher estimate rather than lower estimate.
Did you by chance, like you looked at on the market and say, this is what the average salary for that position?
No, I had to look on what our teacher salary scale is as our base salary. And then Douglas has a formula that we plug in what the base salary is based on our schedule. And then then it gives us the retirement, Social Security, medical, and all that.
So we have to use the teacher's salary schedule for somebody that's not a teacher?
If it's an
I just say
administrator,
it depends on the, right.
and you would want somebody that knew what they were doing on that part. You just want just a data analyst or whatever. You need somebody who knows what you're doing.
Hmm.
I just said that 2 or 3 times. I know it's dandy, I know. I've already been through that, it didn't work out.
Again, this is for 2 years, not any
I
longer.
know, but who are you gonna get that's really good and qualified that's gonna say?
That's
I'm here
true.
for 2 years and that's it.
That's true.
That's just my thought.
Depends on what you do in the 2 years. This-
Find enough money to supply their job. If they like it enough. Find enough grant money to pay for it.
Again, I'm coming from the needs of that I've gathered from,
Oh, I know we have a need for it, but you gotta look.
There are a lot of needs.
oh, I know, there's a lot to think about. A lot to think about. That's why I'm bringing it to you now, because it gives you a full week to think about and decide. Oh, a full week here that you got. You're welcome, sir. But that was a rhetorical phase anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is the ESSER proposal. And again, the first step in the budget is that you've got these monies that you need to expend and tell the state, we've got to tell the state by March 1. And so your board meeting is the February the 8th and then the 11th. So we got to March 1 to get this paperwork filled out to spend the $1.6 million.
Now, obviously, this does not equal out to 1.6. So Mr. Curtis gave us an allotment, say if we were given this much, what would you use? So obviously, whatever is or any parameters that you give us, we will work within that with our greatest need.
And I'll get with the ESSER committee. And
Oh, yes, well, yes,
and
we've not
we'll
done
say-
that at all.
we've not
Again, we're
talked with-
waiting on
or we're having a
decision.
district leadership meeting with principals on Wednesday. So that's where I was going to bring this up on. If we have X amount of dollars, then this is how we can utilize that amount of dollars to aid us in what we need to do. And then again, not hugely address this, but part of this money certainly is for learning loss. And, it's about kids and what can we do to aid teachers and our students to address this learning loss. The state's coming about this with all these different things, the summer program, and all these other types of programs. of those things that were debated at the special session, and y'all saw part of that with in the TSB update, was, you know, four different things coming at us on top of budgeting and on top of strategic planning. So big deal here, guys and ladies, big deal. But it's not every day, as I've said this before, as I said this on Saturday, it's not every day that you get handed $1.6 million that you can utilize it for such a, help me, Ms. Mullins, a varied amount of things. Normally the Fed said you can spend it this way, and we're going to monitor to make sure that you have spent it this way and this way.
Received anything quite like this since I've been here.
Well, I don't want to,
We've had COVID before.
I don't want to say that more money is coming, but I have been told that ESSER 3.0 with the Biden administration is in the works. When I saw the figure this on tonight's news that I saw, that was in the neighborhood of 3 trillion. Did y'all see that? I mean, education's going to get a huge chunk of that, so we may get some more. I don't know, but I don't want to project out there because that's depending on Congress and everything, but if ESSER 3.0 occurs, we may not have the flexibility that we have with ESSER 2.0. So you need to consider that too. And I'm not putting anything off because we're getting bombarded right now. Commissioner's update today, we've just been bombarded about this is summer school, or this is our summer camp program. It needs a correct terminology. Our summer camp program, and then you've got a separate one that ESP is going to run, and then what I didn't like what I heard today is you've got a particular amounts in a particular time period for elementary, and you've got a particular time period 4 weeks, 6 weeks for elementary, 4 weeks for your middle school, but then high school is not even hardly mentioned at all. And y'all saw where we had our biggest amount of failures when we were virtual was at Cannon County High School. So I want to try to get some funding from some location so that we can beef up our credit recovery program in this summer. While we're doing everybody else, and we're hauling these, we're transporting elementary school and middle school. I'm not wanting to forget our high school, because if we can get them there, they may not need the transportation as much, but if we can get them there and they're failing, and we've got some teeth to get them there this summer, particularly if they're a senior or up and coming senior or whatever.
How are we going to get them to school if we can't get them to sit on their bed and log into a computer?
Well, that's where Miss Bonnie comes in with compulsory attendance laws.
Now, we do have some funding set aside under Title II specifically for the high school this summer to fund a teacher to do credit recovery beginning. Mr. Nichols and I have discussed that this year. And so that's a small amount, but we do have something in Title II.
Well, that was the disturbing part about today's conversation, is that high school was not mentioned at all.
We're not going to know where we stand on that till almost the end of the year. Who's, we got failures.
Well, that's correct. But then what we'll do, we're basically saying that you're going to get one teacher for 20 students, and they'll go back and they'll figure out how many, what that would be like, what that would be like with about half of our students taking advantage of the summer camp program. And then you'll have tutoring that's all be offering, and we'll have to get those that meet the state qualifications for tutors. That part of that, and that's separate. That's a whole separate deal of the camps. So we're being thrown a lot of things at us. All that we're going to be inundated with the stuff from the state from here on out. Yeah, and it's required. It's mandatory that you offer this. They're saying, here's the money. Now you make it work. It's like our 2% raises that are that $83,000 that we've received in getting that, and we'll make a determination on how we're going to do that. And that is for, I did hear some more clarification on that. That is for certified teachers and nurses. But we have one RN that's a certified nurse. So that gets that one. And then as every certified teacher, that $83,000 that we got will now be spread upon those, 140 teachers on staff. It's teachers, and now some other systems are utilizing their local funding to do that. I think we don't want to go down that route, I don't believe. But they're doing multiple staff members where this money is for teachers, certified teachers is what this is for. And nurses would be considered certified employees.
$600.
So you figure that, Wade, on that, and did you do quick? I thought somewhere around 500, just an estimation, but a little bit more than that.
Mr. Curtis, this is Marcia. Can I jump in for just a minute too?
Go ahead, Dr. Mill.
We've gone over a few things there that I want to backtrack just a little bit about. All the summer school things that you've been talking about do not include high school. They only go up to middle grades, if I'm interpreting the laws correctly. Now, I think Ms. Mullins told you a little bit about that we had put some in the first ESSA money on Friday, and I haven't even got to talk to you about this, Mr. Curtis. The high school called because and Brian's been working on this, and we had a conversation before the meeting too. We only have 20 seats in our Odyssey Ware. That's our credit recovery program that we use. And the high school was really counting on that, I think, to use to help students get their credits recovered. Plus, if we're thinking about that, using that for summer school. I don't see Mr. Nichols on here right now, and that would be a conversation we need to have with him to see if he needs more seats. Brian's worked out a pretty sweet deal. It's still expensive about getting us some extra seats through either June or July as needed at a reduced cost that they're willing to work with us. But we might need to look at that too as we're moving forward, if you think that that's where you want to land. I know you mentioned that, and I just wanted to throw that out too.
Hey, Marcia, I'm here. So
good. Okay. I can't see you.
Well, I'm under the Melinda tab there. So.
Okay, thank you. So Courtney, like I said, I didn't mean to put you on the spot or anything there, but I thought with us talking about summer school and credit recovery, and I just wanted you to know that Brian had worked on that after we talked on Friday, and that I didn't get a chance to.
Yeah, I did see an email. I did see an email on that, Marcia, over the weekend.
Okay, well, he just found out before this meeting, and Brian might want to speak to that too. I know he is on, but once again, if that's just something, depending on how much money we have out of the ESSER fund, after the board decides what they want to use the money for, that we might want to open up for discussion also.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hey, Courtney, you want to say anything about that on how many seats you have? You have currently 20 seats, and you really need, and again, I express the word need, you need how many?
Mr. Curtis, I don't have that number in front of me right now, but it's, right now, I want to think that it's around 60 to 70 seats.
Yeah, Lydia told us it was 67 when we talked Friday.
Yeah, I was thinking it was close to 70. I didn't have the exact number, but that was a ballpark there, was 60 to 70 there. So
you're wanting to triple your capacity with Odyssey Ware, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Kofer, how much have we negotiated with Odyssey Ware on tripling our capacity for our students?
Well, let me tell you what we've been getting for several years. We've been going with the 20 concurrent license model. And that means 20 people can be logged on at the same time. But when the 21st student tries to log in, they're not going to get a session. And it's pretty expensive. We pay $15,000 a year for those 20 concurrent licenses, but it's a very comprehensive program for credit recovery. I reached out to our representative to see if they had any partial year program, or I told them we were, that we had 67 students needing in credit recovery right now with only 20 concurrent licenses, and was wondering if they would give us a prorated license to get us to the end of this school year. And I got the quote just a few hours before this meeting. They quoted 50 more licenses to go from mid-February to June the 30th. The cost per license on their quote was $214.25 for a total cost of $10,712.50. So they're willing to work with us. I guess.
How many
For the
extra
high school.
offered, did you say 50? 50 extra, 50 extra for that price?
Yeah, I didn't ask for that amount. I just first asked if they could do it. We may not need 50. Maybe we just want to add 40 more to get us to a total of 60 concurrent. And the other question is, we may need to incorporate July depending on the summer school schedule. But
That'd get us down, that would get June the 30th would get us down to the end of the fiscal year. So you're not moving from one fiscal year to the other. That's kind of how I did that, Brian.
that part really doesn't matter. I mean, they're typically a year license. The 20 license we have now expires May 31st, but I always get that renewed before that date. So the 20 we have now, we're not going to let those expire. But if
That's
y'all
pretty good price good for that 50 licenses for 10 grand. It's not too bad.
I was a little surprised that they would do a partial year like that. So they're usually pretty rigid. It's you buy a year or nothing. So that was encouraging. I don't know if that's something you think would be highly beneficial. Yeah.
Mr. Nichols, you want to say anything more about the need for to have that many simultaneous licenses? I know 20 has been, you might want to explain to the board, why did we just do 20? And that's on at the same time. And we have a credit recovery program and a lab there that is a small lab where they can work one-on-one with students. So Mr. Nichols, you might want to talk about our credit recovery program.
Just really quick, just like Mr. Curtis said, we have a credit recovery class that meets each period. So with that being said, ideally we usually only have about 20 students in those classes at that time. So with that, they just use that same 20 license that we have to get logged on and get credits worked up. The 67 seats that we were needing total was just, we went back through and we went through the ones that met the qualifications that we felt like there was no way that they could pass for that year. We're trying to get all these freshmen and the underclassmen caught up so that they start off this next school year on the right foot. And so, because if they're having to repeat that freshman English class and we've got that many, that's taking up a whole slot that as far as, I don't want to get into a spot where I'm going to have to ask for another teacher, if that makes sense, because of these failures this year. So we've already loaded them up Friday. We've loaded them up. We're we had them working, we divvied them out amongst the staff there. So they worked all day Friday. So that was the problem that we ran into, is we had a lot of them that couldn't log on because we exceeded the seats. And so what my plan is try to get these kids caught up before actual summer starts.
I was having a sidebar with Aletha about what they were utilizing at Watertown, and they don't have a program like what we do. They're instituting it now, so because of COVID and the failures that they've had. So it's not just us; it's everybody on that. This is that's had any kind of hybrid or any kind of. The hybrid's been working. It was the virtual that was the problem over the period of time.
And while you mentioned that really quickly, our numbers, I'm going to reevaluate those numbers. And if our numbers continue to trend down like they are, I'm wanting to go back full force on February 8th. That'll be Monday.
We have 76 total active cases in Cannon County as of just a few minutes ago when I checked. And then our school cases are staying down. Short Mountain's had a little hiccup there with the class, but other than that, that's really all I've heard about. And I've not heard from Nurse Leslie today, but I will tomorrow. And we'll get the board a new report as soon as I get it. But we're staying high school, though, Mr. Nichols, kudos what you did, because before we were heading up and we're probably looking at virtual, and the AB, I think, it's not the solution for everything, but it sure helped. And our numbers at the high school relatively low, correct?
That is correct.
So that's a blessing. We've been blessed on that part. Okay. Anything else about that? So you would like to see that added in, Brian, in the ESSER 2.0 funds, an additional $10,000, did you say, dollars approximately added into that fund for credit recovery?
I'm just bringing out the information on the cost. Mr. Nichols would be the one to speak to the effectiveness of it. Sounds like they could use it, though.
My concern is when we actually get the funding and how many months is left for it to be utilized for, he's just needing it for seniors. I mean, they're needing it all before the year relevant.
I think it's across the board, not just for seniors, correct, Mr. Nichols?
That is correct. That's across the board. It's not just seniors.
So paperwork, we can make that work. Yeah, we can make that work then.
You want me to go ahead and get a quote for covering July, just in case?
Yeah, see how much more that would be.
Okay.
Would that be acceptable, Mr. Nichols, in doing that?
I was trying to get everything wrapped up by June 30th. Was my plan. And if we can utilize summer school, we had already talked briefly about running 2 sessions if the money was available for that we'll run a morning session and then an afternoon session. So
and you want to say, and then it would not exceed your seat licensures then.
Correct. So that's kind of what I was hoping, to try to save some money a little bit there by just running 2 sessions.
That's innovative, Mr. Nichols. I'll say that word. It's innovative. So I'm looking for.
Well,
I knew you'd get a kick out of that. Yeah, Brian, get a quote on what that would be for, but I don't think you need it now. If it said June 30th, I think you'll be, just use that 10,000 quote. Marcia, do you have anything else on that?
One last thing, the quantity of 50, is that about right, or do you want me to ask them about dropping down to 40, or what's your feel on that?
You got 20, so I'd say if you did 50, I think that'd be about right. 70 would be about right.
Remember, these are concurrent. They're not
at the same time. We know at the same time.
Of course, if you got a couple of classes going at the same time, you're going to need probably at least 60 total.
Right. I think the consensus of the board is leave it at 50 and let's see what you get. But you got your quote already, 50 for 10 grand. Is that right? Right at 10?
$10,712.50.
Okay. All right. Board members are writing that down, part of your budget process, $10,712.50.
That's a contract start date of February 15th and a contract end of June 30th for the extra 50. And the 20 that we have will continue.
We won't have our money by February 15th, but
And if
that's
y'all
okay.
want to take care of that other 20, that's good for me.
Oh, now Mr. Cofer starts bartering with the board. Okay.
Cofer, your budget didn't get touched last year.
Do what?
Your budget was left unscathed last year.
You better not trend, everybody. See, Brian's turning around. You did something there. Mr.
You
Chairman.
came up with a great presentation. But it got him by.
It was a great presentation. All right. Thank you, Brian.
All right.
You're still at the office, so hey, you're doing overtime tonight. Yeah, he's back. I can tell he's in his office. You've had a long day. Brian worked today on
Budget meeting,
at Eastside.
Monday after the
Eastside
workshop.
We saying,
Yes, sir.
I would like
Thank you, Brian.
for
Yeah.
everybody to come up with a plan, a long-term plan and a short-term plan.
You know, I feel like you're about to get your income tax check that you don't have yet, but you've already got it all
I'm
spent.
not talking about this. I'm
No.
talking about the whole shebang. Me and Mr. Mullins were approached, ball game the other night, and I've been approached by several people. We're gonna have to start anchoring down.
Yes.
We're gonna have to start making some decisions.
People want to see it on paper. They want to plan. I don't know what we're gonna do.
I want all of you to try to come up with something you think will work. And if you want to keep 7 schools open, you're gonna have to come up with a way to fund it. And that's just the only thing that I've approached the commission several times. You guys are new. You can approach, you can try. What Wade has done there, he went over some things there. It just proves the point. Our local match is pitiful. And we're gonna have to do something.
Mhm.
And I'd like to see your ideas. You can present them. I think everybody knows. Where I've stood on it, it's not because that's where my heart is, it's just that's where the figures are. If you guys can come up with something, do come up with something. Come up with some type of idea. Plan that you see for the future, plan that you see would work.
Papers Neil gave us Saturday.
They were very informative, but to me, that's cutting it close. I mean, there's not a lot to play with there. It'll work. There's not a lot to play with. We're not going to get to spend what I would like to spend on education.
Right? On either one of the plans?
You're 20 years out from the real saving running in, so you can start working on CTE courses, so you can start adding extras, doing it that way. Now, are you 20 years away from clamping down and getting better test scores? No.
I'm saying you say you're 20 years out from
Being able to have funds to
do CTE, do something besides pay a building off.
And then you have a 20-year building. Since you're gonna have your HVAC life expectancy running close to running out, if not before that.
I'd say 40 years on the building.
I'm talking about the building.
He said.
I'm talking about the maintenance,
Yes.
your HVAC.
Think about Woodbury Grammar now. Think about
Yeah.
what your Woodbury Grammar now is 20 years
Water
out.
heaters.
So we've had to replace water heaters, also cease pumps. We would like to replace those units on the flat part of Woodbury Grammar. They need to be replaced to conventional units. Or I learned a phrase today from the AC unit when I'm talking to Mr. Malden, air sourced units instead of, I learned that today. So, but instead of just, I call them conventional units, but air source units. We need those replaced right now. I mean, you're looking at 20 years on a building, and then by that point, Woodbury Grammar then would be approaching 40 years old then too. But then again, think about this: we're in 60-year-old buildings right now.
Right.
We are at 40 year. We are at 40, 42 something year old buildings, right? Correct, Mr. Nichols? And then at Auburntown, you are in a 40-year-old building, built in 1980. But then again, you got on some of those other schools, you got 20 more years before that you've got.
Yeah, I'm not saying the building won't last. I'm just saying you're going to start accounting for band-aiding stuff back together again.
We're redoing that.
I don't know. But I guess what I'm trying to get with I'm agreeing with what Javen's saying. By the time you get to where you can start building, you're going to be spending money on maintenance instead of education. Because then by then your high school will be, what, 60?
Correct.
And then we're going to have a new high school.
Not like Woodland is right now, approaching 60 years old.
Something to think about. You don't have to come up with something though, because we cannot continue to go where we're going. We got buildings built in 65 and no way in the world of replacing them if something happens to them. If they become condemned, we're stuck.
Well, that's what happened in 1974, and the historian will come out at me with Woodbury Central. Woodbury Central High School was condemned by the state in 1974. Couldn't get it built until 77, 78. So it was condemned. But
And they stayed in there.
they had to. They had nowhere else to go. And then at about that same time, Auburn burned in 77, also in that same time period. So, you know, they're building with a new school trying to be built, and then another school that they lost.
Neil, are you still there?
He is there. Neil, I saw him a second ago.
He's in there.
I'm here. Yes.
There he is. Hello, Neil.
I ran something by you the other day, and when we first talked, if we continue going the way we're going, how long would it be before we were bankrupt? Have you had a chance to work on that?
Let me meet with Freddie and go over some parameters, because I could devise parameters where you go broke really fast and parameters where you go broke really slowly. So we're going to have to agree on what those rules are before I can give you.
I like the slow part, Neil.
Well, start trimming staff, you know, you're okay, but how long can you trim staff and do what you're supposed to do?
I'm not talking about trimming any staff. I just want to know.
Okay, so then it's a question of what's the next big repair, and how many of those, and how much of that you want to carry as debt, and how much can you handle with cash?
I think that would be eye-opening for everybody to see. I've got a good idea. But I'd like to see it in black and white.
Go with Douglas, and I'll talk to Freddie about some
I'd appreciate it.
repair capital parameters. Yep.
Thank you, sir.
And I'll help you on that. Just let me know, Neil. I'm good tomorrow, so no problem.
Yeah, you gonna share your idea?
Everybody knows where I'm at.
You said you had a good idea.
About how long it takes us to be broke.
I do too, but I don't know if mine and the chairman's, but
I'm going to say 2.5. Because I estimated this to be 2.5 being in the red the last time when I was right. I'm going to say if you continue the way you're going right now, it'll be about 2.5 years.
And if we go broke, then the state takes over and
State takes over.
we don't want that.
What are some possibilities? I think we need to talk about that publicly in a meeting about what that means when the state takes over.
Okay, I do not know that answer. I just know that
I think we need to
I know
find
some
out.
districts, I think Clay County that happened to that, but I think they took over the county government and schools and a whole nother deal, but, Neil Mike can help us. Comptroller, I think if a system goes bankrupt, I'm assuming comptroller will have a seat at the table there. It's what I would believe, but I don't, sorry about that.
They forced the county.
So I don't know that. Is that right, Neil, or is what you think? If you'll unmute there, Neil.
I don't think they'd let it get that far. I think they'd step in before you were actually
Have a minimum of how much?
yeah. If you got too close to fund balance, they'd show up.
And we've been running about 850 over budget every year.
It depends on who you ask. I think over toward $1 million, but if you were to say on paper, but in actuality, if you were to add it up somewhere between 500, between really 600 some odd thousand and about 8. We've been running over. I've been trying to hold the line.
2.5 divided by 850 is 2.94. And you always, something always happens. So 2.5. You got 2.5.
I actually said 2.9, so that's going to be
Well, that's what the math says, but there's always something that happens.
not bad for a social studies major.
There's extra costs that you can't.
Right.
Never,
You can't figure that.
You can't get it all in.
Oh, well, who would have figured what we got with COVID? That I would have said that, hey, now.
That 2.5 gives you 2 years because that half year the state won't pass it. You got to have that 600-something in reserves.
Right.
And if you don't have it, they won't pass your budget. That's all I got, guys.
Anything else?
You want to talk about? Please do.
When the state kicks in like that, as you said that one time they kicked in because it wasn't just the school system.
Right, right. There's been a few things that I can remember in recent memory now. I was a government teacher now, but in recent memory where the state had to come in, Dixon County was a one Clay County I know of, but that is rare, very rare. Normally they intervene before they have to do that.
Right.
But we came within a few hours as a county that where we come close to. Comptroller says by this hour it needs to be done, or that was last year.
What I was getting at is,
Year before last, not last year before.
you get to that point, would they step in and say, county, you got to give them more money?
I would say they'd have another meeting
Force
with
them to
Mr. Mumpower, but no, they won't. Because the county's giving enough right now. They're giving over right now, 2.9.
600,000 more than what they're actually required to.
559,000.
I was just reading on here, this one county in New York went bankrupt and they shut the whole school system down and bused the kids out to a whole nother county.
Wow.
They had less than 2,000 kids in their county, like we do, and they sent them elsewhere.
And if I ain't mistaken, if BEP don't hold.
And the county has to pay for it.
funding
Yes.
For each student that we had.
Oh, it'll happen
last year,
sooner if we.
We're gonna lose
if they
more
start
money
holding us
then
accountable.
you're gonna lose more money from the county.
Oh,
They-
yes.
They don't wanna pay it.
They're not going to.
And I look for some sort of legal action of the state, like you said, Derek,
They may hold us unaccountable this year because of COVID. But
That's what I'm hoping for, but if they don't,
If they,
if they don't, the county, they've done, Mr. Mahaffey said that.
We will
He
cut
said
you.
It will cut you. If you don't have them, we're gonna wanna cut you.
Yeah, we're gonna cut you.
So if I read Jabin right, he can correct me. Then we're gonna go down a path of no return except run out of money. But if we go build schools, it looks like that's not a good alternative to meet our goals of education. Where's the middle ground?
Well, I'm not wondering. What I've been trying to find myself.
I mean, I don't see where, I don't know where the middle ground is.
There is no middle ground.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Stay the course the way you are.
We can't. So that's not an option.
You can ride it all the way out.
But then what happens?
Why would you do that for only 2 years?
I'm just telling you what you can do.
But then what happens if we do? Say we decide to build schools and the ones across the road over here don't want to approve it.
I don't know.
Well,
They'll be the heroes for the ones that wants to keep their school buildings. And we'll be the bad guys for the ones wanting to close the school buildings for a better education.
We're already the bad guys because we started talking about it from the day we walked in this room.
Well, the day I signed and said my oath over across the road, I said I was here for the children's education. I wasn't here for mom and pop's buildings.
Nope.
And that's what I think, if I were to give some guidance to you, here's my guidance. You got to think about kids first. As a board member, that's got to be your highest priority, not politics. And I'm a poli-sci guy, but I'm just saying, it's not politics, but it's about the kid. It's about your kid, your children, your grandchildren. It's about those kids that are in that kindergarten class.
But it's also about money that we don't have.
It is.
Doing this thing in our house right now where if somebody gets blamed for something or somebody gets in trouble, the natural human characteristic is to say, well, I'm sorry I did that, but that's why I did it. So we were elected, chosen, however, appointed, whatever you want to say.
You were appointed, then elected.
Yeah.
These guys are just elected.
All the above. But we took the job, we took these seats, and I can say without a shadow of a doubt, talking to you guys and working alongside you, the only job we have is to think about what is best for these children and be their advocate, period. We've had people come in and talk about communities, subsets of our Cannon County community. We've had people come in and talk about property values. We've had people come in and say, you got to think about this. We have got to think about one thing, and that's children. Mm-hmm. And I think we talk about years down the road. It may be a long, drawn out road. We've got to think about today's children, but the children that are coming after them and the ones that are coming after that. That's what we're tasked with.
But we got to start somewhere. This has been talked about for so long that I think the public, the teachers, they just want a decision made.
I agree with that.
That's what Jack was saying. But then that goes harder too with, like you said, like you just said, well, if we don't have the money to make that. How do you make that decision?
I don't know.
Do you buy a good used car? Do you buy that you can pay off in 15 years? Or you buy a $10,000 car that you're going to have to replace in another 5 years? I mean, I don't want to shut a building down, and I'll say it publicly. I did not join this school board to shut any school down. But I have to run my household on what I make. And if I can't run my household, then that means I'm going to have to sell and get me a smaller household. I'm like Javen. I mean, I've been looking for the middle ground, but I haven't found it yet.
There is no middle ground where you don't affect the community. It's just not there.
It looks like we're talking about a $4 million project. The middle school and the adult elementary. I don't know what that payment would be.
$4 million total?
Somewhere around that.
Payments, maybe.
It's construction costs.
build a middle school, it'd be,
I mean, not in middle school. I'm
You're talking about,
sorry. I
you're
got.
talking about.
I'm talking about the elementary to get started. And I don't
The
know,
addition, like
Yeah.
adding on to it.
those,
12
on the
classrooms, is
side.
what- 12 classrooms is what it would be.
I just round that out to 4.
And if we did that, what is somebody thinking the plan is to put which kids in there? Have we talked about this?
I can just what's
Right, that's
conceptual.
what we're talking about.
Concept here, but you're looking at, in that scenario, right now I've done the preliminary figures and looking at and going in and looking at it, share that with some others, but you're looking at, pre-K, through 4th grade at the current existing Woodbury grammar structure, and then you wing on to that additional 8 classrooms and then 4 other classrooms there on the other wings that you have. Now, I did talk to Gregor Smee today, and Gregor and I had a pretty distinctive conversation about, he thinks if you get the money, then you do it simultaneous, meaning you're adding on to the wing, but you're also doing work on a proposed middle school that would contain 5 through 8. And if you did that, the same work could be going on simultaneously. And then you would just be, you would enter a year, and that's going to take about how long it's going to get it done. It's about a year. Then you bring your pre-K through 5 there, and then you do something else with the remaining 5th grade through 8th grade, probably in 2 of your bigger schools. It's where you could divide those up and do that for about a year, and then bring them to a new middle school. You could have it done within that amount of time. But that would have to be done simultaneously at one, the work's going on one, what's going on the other 2.
To do that, you would have to get we have to have the addition on the Woodbury Grammar to have.
Pre-K 5, pre-K 4, excuse me, pre-K 4.
So what do we do for them?
Is there enough room in the schools to move the little schools to bigger schools? I mean, they're gonna be
I think
overcrowded.
the concept.
Listen, I mean, they're gonna be overcrowded probably for a little while, and we're gonna be uncomfortable. We gotta do something though.
There has been, we've looked at that.
How many
again,
pre-K classes do we have? 4. And we don't pay for anything for that, right? So if we moved all the pre-K to a building by themselves, would the state take care of that building too, not us?
Okay.
So we go ahead and explain.
Like if we moved pre-K out of Woodbury Grammar and East Side and put them, just say we put them all in, I'm just gonna use Short Mountain for instance. We put them in Short Mountain School Building.
So you mean as
That's
far as-
all that's there is
as far as
pre-K.
maintaining, upkeeping.
Yes.
In short, the answer would be no, but it would be how I would need to know that ahead of time to work that in the grant.
Okay.
So pre-K is paying for the teacher, for the EAs, for all the supplies, all the materials, but part of that grant is a local matching part. And so that can be in kind. And so where that falls into play is the transportation pre-K can ride the buses. The facilities pre-K is part of each school that they're housed at. So that's our matching kind rather than matching in dollars, we're matching in kind services.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So we have to match that.
Well, I just knew that pre-K had their own money and I thought, well, if we could put all of them in one building by themselves.
We've had some good minds look at this and utilize the existing buildings that we have. Could we go to a smaller school system? That's what I proposed.
Well, no, I mean, when I was
What
talking
I-
about
what I-
pre-K,
what
they're
I-
not taking it off of our hands.
Right. Could you do that?
Right.
And I think we saw some of the things when I proposed a concept that you could temporarily.
So this, off of that for a minute, this presentation you just gave us, when you asked, I guess I'm assuming you asked them for their needs.
Correct. I asked
Did you give them an
supervisors-
amount?
No. I said, this is X amount of dollars if it was used for a wing. This is what that possibly could be used.
So if we as a board decided to give you guys a certain amount out of that 1.6, What
Like, if I say 0.6, you say 0.6, we keep $1 million to do on a building. That's basically my premise that we acted upon. And
Okay, that's what I was asking, what you
that's
acted upon.
basically the premise we acted upon. But you tell me, I need 0.5, or, you know, yet 0.5.
You're gonna work with whatever we give you, right?
Whatever
But
you.
it would be, if I can speak, it'd be more of a process. We'd bring everyone like that you saw from 1.0.
Right.
We'd bring a committee together, and we would have in-depth discussion. They would vote on it, we would rank it and go from there.
Okay, when we say you get this amount of money and this to spend on whatever.
That's what we would normally do.
So that's what
anyway.
you really need.
Yeah.
If we're gonna give you some of that money, you need to know how much we're gonna give you so you can figure out what you're gonna buy with.
Correct.
Got it. We're gonna close in 2.5 years.
And I do have needs from every need list, principals are listed. I do have need lists from every one of those principals that are similar to what they were last year. Some are bigger than others, you know. Like those units at Woodbury Grammar, those are, you know, probably the priority at Woodbury Grammar because they know that that needs to be more efficient and would help their situation with the geothermal system. Auburn Town needs a refresh unit right now.
And Short Mountain needs doors and.
Yeah, I mean, you could sit here and
I mean, you're gonna go-
And the elephant in the room that we've not talked about is sewer systems that could go out at any point. I don't want to talk about, but you know, there again, we're talking about sewer systems, y'all. When I was at Westside and the little pumps out in front of Westside, Wade knows what I'm talking about, that little box when you pull around Westside, that box has a red light on, it has a siren that goes off and the red light goes off and it's about to blow. That means the pump. Woodland is on the back part, back toward the, you know, the back side, but Short Mountain is in, you know.
And 1.6 million wouldn't even probably get close to fixing all three of them. If you want the honest truth.
Short Mountain's got one too.
If you go around back, at Short Mountain, next time you're up there, Letha, go around back and Stephanie can show you, but you can see the indention there and they put part of the playground actually is right above the water, the water deal, the water lines that, you know, the field lines. It came to, I just got up at 4 a.m. this morning, so.
And how well is Eastside? I mean, how long you?
And East Side's is, you know, we've had some situation with East Side on part of their deal coming out. And that's just since I've been on the board, since I've been here as your director, what I dealt with in just the past, you know, 2.5, 3 years.
Mine is what we need right here. Just say we didn't even spend no money on that. You could spend $1.6 million and also need schools and never know you done anything.
Yep.
At $142,000, $142,000 each. You can
I mean,
split it down.
that's the honest truth.
$142,000 is not much money.
No, not in maintenance and repairs. I mean, you're looking at a unit at Auburn Town, it's probably gonna cost you $25,000 to $30,000 to get installed.
But to start this process, you have to get with an architect. Architect has got to draw up plans. You have to have the environmental look at this and your utilities. And then those plans would go out to bids and that's money out there before you ever start. Whatever that might cost, who knows what that's gonna cost. It could be $200,000, it could be $500,000. So that's ones you gotta have up front, even if you decide not even to bid.
What would it have costed for the training and the commissioners in the festive? What was that gonna cost, that audit or survey was on?
Oh, $50,000, you know, right at, you know, $49,000 is what that investment grade audit was. But with that investment grade audit, though, we've got turned right around. We can name the units that can be.
Oh, yeah, I
taken
understand
out.
that, but I was
Yeah,
just saying,
that's
if
fine.
they hadn't
If they
passed
hadn't done it, we would have, we'd have had
Yeah.
it'd been $49,000 that we were up. So it was a risk us going over to them to do that. But we asked their permission first to do it and they gave us that. But they said, you know, it's all on us. It's all on you. So that's why we went down to the 2 schools that were the ones that, you know, you're going to utilize in any kind of plan.
How much money is in surplus?
How much is there?
I want to say right now 2.6.
We gotta leave
I
how
get you
much-
exact,
we
figure.
can't go
Douglas,
above
give me an
what?
exact figure.
Almost
600.
700,000, 600 something.
That low?
Yeah, it's that low, but it's bad to push
Oh,
it to that.
I know it's got a little bit.
That's before the comptroller comes in, or they get called.
They will not pass it.
They won't pass the
They won't
budget.
pass your
They won't pass an extras budget, is what they won't do.
Because you have no backup.
Dr. Mary Ann Dursky, I can give you a lecture. She'll give you a lecture on that real quick. You don't need to get, I would be very skittish to go below 1 million, folks. Very skittish. I'd be holding my breath that nothing broke, nothing big broke.
This has been put off too long.
Yes.
You're right.
It just keeps doing that way. It's already at the point where you're gonna have to do something there.
So what do we do?
They'll come up with a plan that Sherman's us to do, I guess. 5 different plans.
I'd like to see something, so that's what I thought of, so.
I'd like to see what projected payment would be.
I think Neil could,
If Neil could work on that for us.
Neil, you there, sir? Yep, he's there. Yeah, okay, go ahead now. Ask him, wait, he's on mute.
Neil, can you hear me?
Yes.
Just kind of wondered if you maybe you could get us a figure that like the grammar school concept plus a middle school, and we pay so much down, whatever that figure might be, what would be our yearly payment? And see if that reflected against savings. You may already have that.
Okay, I'll get with Freddie tomorrow, grab figures.
Okay.
It's gonna be similar to that second sheet that y'all had. It'll be similar to that second sheet.
Because every year you go down the road, you're making that savings is adding up, right? To be put back in. Because I don't see
You're
what
just-
20 years not to have some extra money to use on education, would we not?
A lot of it has to do with cost of increase of employees over time, and those are always going to increase faster than inflation.
Yeah.
So there's the crystal ball that you gotta say, are we gonna go up or down or what? It's to the population.
implemented into this, if the state gives the teachers a 4% raise, that's gonna be a lot shorter amount of time.
They're gonna only provide what, it was the instructional portion of the BEP on the 4%. Everything else, those certified personnel, we gotta come
Everyone
up
that
with.
we're over the BEP.
That's correct.
We have to fund it.
We have to fund it.
And we already fund how many extra positions? Did we decide?
It's
Thir-
30 something.
30 something, wasn't it?
That 44 figure wasn't right, 40.
Now, is that including, do you know, Mr. Curtis, is that including Title I teachers and pre-K teachers?
No,
No,
we're talking about stuff that we don't fund.
correct. Just on with just the GP.
That was something we had to learn because we didn't know the difference.
And also principals, too.
Correct.
But you ain't funded for all 7 principals.
Oh, no, we're only funded 5.5.
Correct. You're right. Very good. Y'all are.
Oh, trust me.
Y'all are getting
Yep.
good. Y'all getting good at this. That's good. I'm glad to see others there.
I carry this paper everywhere and I have wrote all
The
over.
BEP, there you go.
I got it at that meeting with you. I have wrote it. I think I wrote 2 more copies. I've already went through 2 copies, sir, 2 or 3.
But I mean, if you look at the numbers, I mean, and I've thought about I've got some friends that are retired directors that are consultants, and I've thought about, I need some pro bono help here. And seeing, but everyone I've looked at, they're saying you're looking at a tough situation is what both of those gentlemen told me.
No.
I didn't say impossible, but it said you were in a tough,
I looked at other options.
rock and hard place, I
Like I
think.
said, I got annihilated for that. You can start cutting staff and survive a little longer.
Well, when I looked at this, it says, but the BEP doesn't even pay for PE teachers at the high school.
But I mean, you look at the BEP, it's a formula. It's not a spending plan. It's a formula. And, you have to use it under the confines of your own school system. Everybody's got the the same board, the same stuff you're dealing as a board, every board in Tennessee deals with. About, you've got this amount of money from the state, you get this amount of local funding. But when I see figures that wade throughout there, now you know why we're in the way we are. And in the blame game, it's just like what Letha said, it's a blame game. And we're not blaming, we're just saying, this is the circumstances we're in. How do we make it better for kids?
Now we need to find a solution.
This is circumstances you're in. How do we make it better?
People see that $9,000 per student and just go ape on that.
Well, it ain't even that.
Oh, you got all kinds of per student.
73,
What's the problem?
ain't it? Or 75.
The BEP is, there's other factors that bring it on.
Again, going back to the BEP part, they see you're getting 75, let's just say, just make it easy, 75, 25. And I know it's different than that, but let's say 75, 25, they see the 75, but then saying, hey, I got to put the 25% in the game too. Right? And you know, I'm not want to blame anybody. I'm just saying this is where we're at, where we could have been. That's enough of that. We're beyond. I like what Letha said the other day. We're beyond that, and it's time for some action instead of we've been talking. It's time for action.
I know you probably sent it to us. Didn't you send us a list of staff and where they teach and what they teach?
Yes, I did.
Okay, it's probably no, I think I have it printed out.
It's okay. It's in an Excel format, and
Yep.
you got tabs.
Yes.
We also have the capacity that each school holds, correct?
Yes,
We
you
have
got
that.
that in another document.
Like we know how many
Now that's not got the
vacancies
capacity.
are. No.
That's not got the capacity.
That's got the
But you
teachers.
gave us something showing like how many more kids could be put at Woodbury Grammar right now if we needed to.
Yes, sir.
And you,
Yes, ma'am.
and how
That's on
many
there.
kids can be held at Auburn?
Correct.
East side.
Well, how can you cut teachers if you've got the students?
That's what that was my question. We can't cut.
Without,
I mean,
you
you
don't
can cut
like
them,
to
but
split
then
the
you don't
class.
have.
They don't make a whole lot of money, do you?
It's not right. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know.
Multi-age classrooms are legal.
Mm-mm.
They are, but I don't want to go that route.
No,
I
that's
taught.
backwards.
Listen. I taught when I first started teaching. I had
What year?
1986. I had 54 students in one classroom at Westside. I had half of the seventh grade. I had all the seventh grade and all the eighth grade.
But they
in one-
can't do that now because of
in one
COVID.
classroom because you can't do that anyway because you're 35 is
We can't do
max.
that anyway. The best I could get was 12 teachers.
However, Jennifer, if you'd have been one of my students, which you could have been, that's what I learned today, then I had half the, Kathy
I remember.
Kathy Gannon, Kathy Kimbrough came down there, and Kathy then, she had half the seventh grade and all the eighth grade. Then the next year, I had all the sixth grade and half the seventh grade. I think Mr. McMakin's one of his kids was in there, but
It's all fine and dandy.
but I'm not saying that's going, multi-age classrooms is perfectly legal, but it's not the best for kids, and it's not the best for teachers.
Well, that ain't gonna work at this point.
No, it's just the opposite.
And that's our goal, is to get our test scores from a point.
But
They've been for 12 years now.
By the way, you can't find those numbers anymore. They wiped them out.
I took them out.
Maybe we contacted them to give it to, but I was trying to find it for all schools. They took it, they wiped that dashboard out.
It was there
Yeah, I know it was there.
a couple years ago.
Ben said they wiped it out. He looked at it himself. Crap, where'd you do it? It's right here.
I haven't.
But let me just say that, I mean, you're trying to do what's best for kids, and that's up here. What we're doing right now is trying to get us to here. And, you know, I'm here for you. I'll help any way we can. I've racked my brain. You know, normally I sleep pretty good at night, but a lot of times I don't sleep good at night.
I'm not either.
Because it's just, this is kind of stuff that keeps you up. And you're thinking, okay, how can, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, or someone said, or it's a math equation, a Norman Lewis math equation. It's what it is. And this variable, this variable, this variable, this variable.
So Jamie, you want us to come next week? Next Monday night with certain plans?
Yeah,
And we're gonna start putting the pencil to the paper. So these people, so
We'll,
our
We'll
teachers.
have our regular, cover everything on the agenda and then we'll, have some serious talks about how we're gonna,
Move forward.
yeah, I need ideas, so I'm not against any of y'all reaching out. If you can find a way to make it work, I can. I've tried. And man, building and being that close on the budget, that scares me too. The wheel tax.
Does it scare you as bad as going bankrupt and the comptroller taking them?
Well, if we can't make the payment, we're gonna be in the same situation.
That's right.
I mean, I'm not.
That's why I want to see what.
So it comes down to, we just gotta make a decision.
You wanna go bankrupt now, or you wanna go bankrupt in
Later.
10 years?
Or
With the brand new building. And no more education that we promised. That's what bothers me. I'll just tell you, that's what bothers me. I'm for it. I'm for getting more education, but
I wanna do education the right way.
I do.
That's what I want.
And what's best for the people of Cannon County? I mean, this system right here would affect my family just as much as it would anybody in Auburn Town or Short Mountain. So, I mean,
Wade's grandkids, Jennifer's grandkids. It'll affect them in a major way. It'll affect everybody in a major way.
Kathy, do you have kids in school here?
Yeah, I have a sophomore in high school.
our cash flow. What is the cash flow part of? Let me make sure I'm understanding that.
okay, cash flow is just that, the amount of money that comes through. Fund balance, Douglas will want me to say this explicitly. Fund balance, and cash flow is not fund balance. But where the commission looks at that hard and saying,
That's what I'm getting at. What?
okay, where the commission puts
Yeah, I
out
wanna be prepared.
is that you start at a certain number this year, X amount of dollars is what you started. You have X amount of dollars at the end. Okay,
That they put the previous board budgeted.
that's the previous board budgeted.
Okay.
You didn't spend all that.
And then look at that, right?
And they look at that because
That's just like us in the military. We spend
that's-
it all,
that's
so
what
then
I'm
we
here
try to
to
take it
where
back.
county executive was saying, he already had that discussion with me. He said, you need to understand that when you come
They're
before
looking at
the commission,
extenuating circumstances here because of COVID and.
that's exactly what I was fixing
We
to say.
had gone way backwards last year. COVID hit.
And you
we
didn't
went
have kids
backwards-
in school from March.
We went
to-
backwards about half as much as we thought.
You were transporting them,
Right.
and you weren't having some breakdowns you would having, and you were not spending what you were
And they're also taking
spending.
into
Ms. Mullins can probably tell you that, my
consideration
supervisor can tell you
this money
that we didn't
all the
spend.
other that's coming in, it looks like your cash flow is up, but that money has to be spent,
On certain things,
and you can't spend it on salaries.
right?
I can't help that.
And two, you've got, and what looks like, oh, you're gonna have this amount of money left over. But then you turn right around in your June payroll,
Right, like you
Is-
guys were
it's like
explaining that.
what we were saying, your June payroll, you're gonna have to come up with 3 months salaries basically in that one June payroll. June, July, August, that you've got to come, and then see that oversteps into another fiscal year. So you've got that, so.
The problem is, as Mr. Mahaffey and Mr. Bush sat here and said, as to put all their words out as of 12/31/2020. They ain't worried about a pandemic. They ain't worried about, I mean. Cause all the
Factors
words
in
about
everything I
the
do.
numbers. So they don't have to give it, so they don't have to give the county, your kids to the county no more money. As you have several on that commission that does not, they didn't want to put roofs on it. I sat over in the commissioners meeting. Sat over and said she didn't care if the buildings fell in. So that's what we have to deal with over
You really not able to negotiate.
there. I mean, it's unreal.
Yeah,
It's unreal that the people they don't care. I mean, I don't understand it.
I will say this, and I don't care to say this, I've said this to the commission, County finds a way to pay for everything it wants to pay for. Except for
education.
And wages. Proving that.
Well, going back to what Derek was saying, I'm not gonna be a dead horse, but the scenario 10 years from now, or what, like you were saying, that'd be remedied if the wheel tax is extended to help build a middle school.
Then you could have spent the savings that.
No, I'm just saying instead of, I'm not saying raise it to, I wasn't saying raise it to that one. I'm just saying, just keep what we got, the $40.
That would have helped.
If it kept $40, could we extend that on another additional 20?
And that has to be voted on, doesn't it?
It said it doesn't sunset on this one, it sunsets when we get with the newer one, the new middle school and the wing paid off.
And
Would that pay for it?
You can look into that any way you want to. There'll always be something else. There'll always be something else.
Well, I'm just saying though, all we're asking is we're just gonna extend what we got. We're not saying raise it to 75. We're saying keep the $40. Would that pay for, and that's where Dale can help me, would that pay for this? And then you're gonna have what you would have made the payment on, and that may be where we can negotiate. You can negotiate between that to cut a deal to say, okay, that we're gonna save this, but yet we can put this on it if you'll help put this on it. Then you're not gonna worry about your 10-year situation. Now I sound like we're a politician trying to cut the deal, but I'm just saying that's where my element is. But I'm just saying if that's where it is, then let's sit down and.
4 years.
2026.
Anything keep going.
We're back and pay off for 2025. Depends on which commission you talk about. So I'm saying if you extend it another 20 years and you take part of your savings that you're going to do that's created that Neil's done the work on, and then you have the wheel tax, the $40 of the wheel tax, but the $10 is already obligated, okay? Because of the rules. You don't say that, but the $40, if you could just extend it. That's all I'm asking. If we increase the debt, the sunset extended when the debt stopped. Now, can we add new debt? That's where the legal challenge would be.
That's $10 on electric bill per year.
On everybody in the county?
9,000 meters.
Wow.
What'd you say?
Wade had a proposal that I
I
brought
had a
up.
proposal on there, but I thought it was crazy.
I brought it up at one of the commission meetings and they,
$10 on electric bill a month. Franklin made $8,000 a year.
So, I'm just saying could that be a compromise? That's my question. Could that be a compromise where the commission partners with us to continue the wheel tax over a period of 20 years?
With the current commissioners, new commissioners, and if you get new commissioners in 22, maybe.
That's the gamble.
I don't know that we can't make it to. You can. That's sad.
I can't afford to really cut no more than what we're
So
doing.
we're gonna have to look at.
You're
how
a bare
much-
bones staff pretty well like it is now.
I was
With
gonna
the
say,
current-
we're gonna have to
with the
look how
current-
far we can go in that. How deep can you go in there? You still operate.
Cutting or
Yeah, how deep in staff can you go before you just can't operate functionally? The functionality leaves the system.
if you do multi-age classes,
Then we gotta take into consideration that some of these teachers are really worried they're not gonna have a job, so they're already looking elsewhere,
that's correct.
as we can't blame them. I mean,
And
this is
I
their
tell
livelihood.
teachers, hey, hang with us. Let's see what we can get done.
Would you hang? If you were
If I
young,
was non-tenured.
if you were
I was
non-tenured
Non-tenured,
and you had 2 little kids at home,
I'd be looking pretty quick.
and you can't blame them. I mean, I don't blame them at all. I don't blame
If I'm
anyone.
a second-year teacher in, let's say a second-year teacher in, and yeah, it'd worry me.
As it should. I mean,
But then again, if this says something about Cannon County, I look at surrounding directors. And you can do the same thing. You want a comparison shop, okay, comparison shop. Is any other county surrounding us having these kind of financial difficulties?
Oh, yeah. Say all of them are.
Depends, but they're different. Rutherford County's is different than theirs because of the growth. They can't build them quick enough. Yeah. And,
you what?
and I can tell you, but it's those kinds of things. Everybody's got problems. Everybody's got kind of
And I
different
know that we
problems.
talk
And
about,
nobody's got the same kind of problem we have, except maybe during.
right, and I know we talk about the kids and the education. Of course, we told those teachers when we made a decision, we let them know because they deserve that.
Absolutely.
Spending it too. Left and right, going to school.
Right. That's why we've got to make a decision for all of them.
Goes back to my premise, there's no middle ground.
So, my deal on the wheel tax, I think that would have solved a lot of different things. And Javen's proposal that was on the ballot would have been amazing on what it would have done.
No, the buildings would have been paid for.
But it
Wheel
did.
tax, and then if that money that Neil came up with, you could spend that on education.
Yep.
Nobody wanted to well tax them.
Well, they didn't want to raise a penny on it.
On the tax, right, sales tax.
Don't give you a penny.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
Okay, so you want to plan Monday night after the workshop?
It'll be budget workshop.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant, after our school board workshop.
After a regular budget, or after a regular meeting workshop, then there'll be a.
Doesn't have to be exact and precise. You can just throw your ideas out here and then we can pick it apart, because that's what's going to happen. We're gonna have to do something. We talked long enough.
Yep. Agreed.
All right.
That's not too much to ask for, is it?
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate everybody popping in tonight.
Thank you. Kathy, thank you for saying, thank you for what you did.
Thank you for what you got.
You didn't have to stay for all that either, Kathy.
Well, you never know when